talk about tight ends, starts of the week here.
Good old tight ends.
I'll let you start it off on this one. I've been taking the reins early for the
Good.
other positions. So give me your first tight end start of the week.
I'm glad you're letting me start here, Steph, because this is a guy who I am so hyped about for the full season. And, this is a gut feeling on this week 1 matchup, but I have a feeling that Hayden Hurst for the Atlanta Falcons is going to come out swinging, guns a-blazing in week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. I love him for season long, but I don't think he's going to take any time getting ramped up. He is going to be the hot waiver wire pickup after week 1, so you better get him now before it's too late, because when I look at Hayden Hurst, they're clearly trying to replace the Austin Hooper role with Hayden Hurst. I mean, Hurst is an incredibly talented player who was a first-round pick. Atlanta clearly believes in the talent. They traded a second-rounder for him, and Matt Ryan already loves him. This is a quote he said about Hayden Hurst from the offseason. He said, quote, "He is for sure one of the fastest and most athletic tight ends I've ever played with. He's a mismatch problem. He's going to create separation and win in different ways," end quote. So if the quarterback's already saying that kind of stuff about you, you know that, as the tight end being the quarterback's best friend and security blanket, he is going to be very involved. When we look at how the Falcons use the tight end as well, it points us towards a huge role for Hayden Hurst. I mean, Hooper was the tight end 6 last season in just 13 games, and that was on 7.5 targets a game, which is a 16-game pace of 120 targets. There's plenty of volume in this offense with Julio Jones there, with Calvin Ridley there. The Falcons passed it the most in the NFL last year with 684 attempts. Over his past 10 seasons, Matt Ryan is averaging 4,400 passing yards a season, which is absolutely absurd. And on top of that, after everything we know about the Falcons' offense, about the role for Hurst, the matchup is actually really good against Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle defense was not great last year. They were middle of the pack in just about all facets of the game. They lost Jadeveon Clowney. They picked up Jamal Adams, so a little bit of turnover there. But against the tight end position, the Seahawks were 30th in the NFL. So look for Hurst to eat in this week 1 matchup. I know bringing in Jamal Adams might actually give them a better ability to cover tight ends because he's such a versatile player in that secondary. But I still love Hayden Hurst this week especially. He's going to get off to an extremely hot start, and I'm thinking about starting him in a couple leagues. I've got Tyler Higbee and Hayden Hurst in a couple places, and I love both of them this week. So who knows? Maybe I'll end up flexing one. But start Hayden Hurst if you got him, if you were able to pick him up late.
At first I was like, oh, you're going to start a tight end on a new team in week 1, but all of the stars are aligning for Hurst to, at least from a ceiling perspective, he should dominate. I think we'll have a pretty high floor as well in this game that I think is going to be an extremely high scoring shootout to start the season. So I'm all over it. I think these offenses are just going to go back and forth. And no, I can't diss the pick too much. And I got Hurst in some places as well. So I might be throwing him out there in week 1. I want to talk about my tight end start of the week. It's a guy that was probably drafted in every single league. If you have him, maybe you picked up this guy and maybe like a Jonnu Smith or a Blake Jarwin, somebody like that. I'm telling you, do not go with the upside option. And if you have him, plug him in at tight end because it's Jared Cook against Tampa Bay. The camp reports were that last season New Orleans wanted to use Cook even more than they did, but he was playing a little banged up.
Wow.
So if he's coming in healthy, ready to go, involved in an offense, we know the Saints are going to be great. Jared Cook last season was the only tight end to finish outside the top 15 in targets per game and inside the top 10 in fantasy points per game. So extremely efficient with his volume. He led the league in tight end yards per reception. He also led the league in quarterback rating when targeted. Was fantastic. Drew Brees was just throwing dots over to Jared Cook, and they were crushing it. He had a ton of touchdowns, high scoring. Like you think of like a Mark Andrews, where he's looking at a very deep average as a target. Yeah. He's scoring a bunch. And last year, Tampa Bay was 25th against tight ends. And they were second best against the run, only behind New England. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring matchup with Tampa Bay's now loaded offense. And there's going to be a ton of touchdowns through the air. And if I'm going to put my money on one of these guys, like who's going to score in New Orleans, if it's not going to be Michael Thomas, to me it's going to be Jared Cook. I think he's going to absolutely dominate. I love the matchup. I love him as a player. And as long as he maintains that efficiency, you can say, okay, take that efficiency, throw some extra volume in for the matchup. I mean, that's a winning formula for Jared Cook. It's not a guy who's moving to a new offense. He's not a rookie. This is a stable, solid veteran in a great offense. So you can plug him in there. I expect good things from Jared Cook, and I expect a high ceiling. Could see 1 or even 2 touchdowns in this week 1 shootout against the Brady Breeze matchup that we're all looking forward to.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be a ton of fun. And Steph, with tight ends, I actually like this pick. I was kind of off Jared Cook in redraft, and I don't really like him season long. But here's the thing with the tight end position. Once you get past that first tier of tight ends, it's hard to find guys that are going to have consistent volume week in and week out, especially headed into week 1 here. Like, there's a lot of, like the name I just talked about, Hayden Hurst, Tyler Higbee, even some of the real deeper breakout candidates like Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson. All guys I like, but we have to leave room for error and, possibility of outcome that the volume's just not there right off the bat. And while with some of those guys, especially Hurst and Higbee, who I just talked about, I think it will be, we don't know that heading into a season. And sometimes you just got to go with the guy who's got the best chance to score a touchdown. And Jared Cook has a better chance to score a touchdown than just about anyone in the entire NFL. He was actually, I'm looking at the numbers now, he was 4th in the NFL in touchdown catches last year with 9.
Unreal.
On just 65 targets.
Unreal.
On 65 targets. That's crazy. Guys ahead of him on the list and tied with him had 121 targets, 185, 128, 134, and he had 65. And some might say that's, he's going to regress to the mean. But in this Saints offense, with how they like to use Jared Cook, I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar touchdown rate this season. So I love the pick. If there's anyone week 1 that has a good chance to score a touchdown at the tight end spot, I'm putting my money on Jared Cook. I like it, Steph.
And the icing on the cake here is that Jared Cook was in his first season last year with the Saints. So you add that on top of it of just continued growth and knowledge of the scheme. Sean Payton will get his playmakers the ball. I think he's going to be a red zone monster the entire season, but especially here in week 1.